Is this channel a book channel? Possibly. Moment to appreciate my probably not very good fake eyelash applying. I don't know why that's the sign language for eyelash. Today's video is going to be books I'm aiming to read in 2020. I have split it into 3 categories. Haven't turned my salt lamp on. It's sorted. My 3 categories are memoir, non-fiction, and fiction. You'll all remember, if you watched my previous video, which is books I read in 2019, that I want to read this year more queer authors, more trans authors. This is How to Write an Autobiography by Alexander Chee. As far as I can tell, this is very up my alley. It's a collection of essays, which I always adore. It says an essay collection exploring his education as a man, writer and activist, and how we form our identities in life and in art. It's about politics. He's a gay American, he's Korean American, an artist. It just sounds really up my alley, and I love kind of autobiography as well. Very excited to read this and give you my thoughts on it. I had to get it second hand off Amazon, so sorry, I used the A word, I'm sorry. I don't think it's readily available, unfortunately, but I am very excited to read it. Okay, second on my list of memoirs or autobiography or whatever is Billie Piper's Growing Pains. I can't remember how I got onto this. My ADHD led me down a rabbit hole. Apparently it's one of the better autobiographies of young women, because I think Billie was quite young when she wrote it. There's a lot of judgment of young women writing autobiography because they're like, oh, like, how do they know anything? They're like only 20 or something. But she had a really apparently interesting childhood. She did a lot of singing. I did actually get this secondhand as well, from the place that shall not be named. I just literally flicked it open and it said drugs in it, so probably gonna enjoy it. Not that I enjoy drugs, but I enjoy books about drugs for some reason. I don't know why. Like I said in my last video, I think I'm vicariously living through these people. Anyway, so excited to read this. Plus, she was always my favourite Doctor Who companion. I don't know a lot about Doctor Who, so don't come for me. This is actually a reread, third in my memoirs. This is Fun Home, a family tragicomic by Alison Bechdel. This is a comic, as a tragicomic would insinuate, that I read, I think in my first year of uni, in my undergrad degree, and I remember finding it very shocking at the time because it's very openly lesbian in it. There's some scenes in it, and I wasn't used to that kind of exposure in my life. I was just a twee 18-year-old who was completely oblivious to anything, but this was so great that I've just thought about it all the time ever since, and I really want to reread it because I want to read more comics. It's a black and white comic, a memoir of her growing up, about her family. I think they're quite dysfunctional. Apparently it's got gothic twists, which sounds very up my alley, and sexual angst, which again, up my alley. I'm rereading it this year because I keep looking at it on my shelf and being like, I reckon this would be great if I reread it. This is In Order to Live by Yeonmi Park. She is a Korean girl who had to flee the North Korean regime, and I love a good survival story, and obviously it's going to be very harrowing, so I have to get in the right headspace for this. I've heard lots of good things about this book. Eye-opening, I believe. Diving straight into non-fiction. I didn't realise this, but I've done 4 in each category. Chavs, The Demonisation of the Working Class by Owen Jones. Owen Jones is a political activist. I don't remember if he's a politician, I don't think he is, but he has very liberal, left-leaning views as far as I'm aware, and this is a book about chavs and how that is a horrible term, basically, that we shouldn't use. It talks about class. Apparently it's a best-selling investigation into the myth and reality of working class life. I've only heard good things about this. I know Jean, Bookish Thoughts, loves this. She's a booktuber I follow. I've had it on my shelf for ages and I always look at it, and for some reason something about the kind of simple colour scheme appeals to me. That shouldn't be why you choose to read a book, but it is my first non-fiction that I want to delve into and have some thoughts about. Maggie, my friend from my PT course, recommended this. This is Natives by Akala, who I believe is a musician and an award-winning hip-hop artist, but he's also a writer, and this is about class again in England, I believe. It says in Natives, he takes his own experiences with education, the police, identity and everything in between, and uses them to look at the social, historical and political factors that have left us where we are today. Thus again, the simple cover just appeals to me. Third on my list of non-fiction books, this is a chunky one. Sapiens by Yuval Noah Harari. I probably butchered that. As far as I know, this is about humankind and how we've kind of evolved as societies and evolutionized, and it looks dense. But to be honest, this is also exactly the kind of thing I love. I love evolution, I love things like humans and what's it called? Sociology. I never took it at school and I kind of wish I had now. How humankind has come to be through the ages. I just saw a picture of something from Egypt. It's a cat. I've heard so many different people talking about this. Barack Obama's got a quote on it. Why is he mentioned in 2 videos in a row? Who knows? Who knows? Quite like the blurb. It says, fire gave us power, farming made us hungry for more, and money gave us purpose, but science made us deadly. I'm gonna give that a little cheeky... Does anyone else love smelling books? I live. The last non-fiction book in this category is this one, which has another stunning cover. I think this is the Blue Lagoon in Iceland. This is Names for the Sea, Strangers in Iceland by Sarah Moss. I kept seeing this on the shelf of my local Waterstones and being like, I need to read this looks great. Not only is the cover brilliant, but it's literally up my alley. It's about Iceland, which is my favourite country. A lady that moved to Iceland and then talked about it and her family. It's, you know, goals ultimately, because I would love to live in Iceland myself, and apparently it's funny as well, which is always good. So it's almost like a memoir as well. Probably the first one I'm going to read out of the non-fiction books because I am hyped for this. Delving into our last section. Something just fell over. I know there's a TV series, but I haven't seen it, so don't judge me. But this is Philip Pullman's His Dark Materials. I borrowed this off my boyfriend. I haven't got the original trilogy. I definitely used to own them. I think I must have sold them. This is a fascinating story about Lyra and her demon, which is like a little soul on her shoulder. How the adults want to harvest the souls or something, and it gets quite fantastical and also quite dark and scary. As far as I remember, I know that this deals with religion in some way, or maybe has religious subtext. I remember saying this was my favourite book once when I was like 10 or something and only just read it, and this boy in the other class was like, "Ugh, that's a terrible book, why would you choose that as your favourite book?" And I was like, I literally could hit you, but I didn't because I'm not violent, so my brain. Also, Philip Pullman shares my birthday. Not my exact birthday, but he's in Libra, 19th of October, and I'm born on 19th of October, so I feel like we have a bond. This is a big chunky volume of all 3 of them. Kind of annoyed because it means I'm going to be reading technically 3 books, and it will only count for 1 on my Goodreads goal, but I might just split them up and read them like that, because that's cheating. This is a very recent purchase of mine because it was advertised in my local Waterstones as like a little promotional stand, but this is the newest book from Jeanette, which is Frankisstein. I wasn't going to buy this because I'm trying to be less impulsive with my books, but my friend Georgia found it, and then I was like, wow, when she read out what it was about, my heart sang. Rye, a young transgender doctor, is falling in love. The object of their misguided affection is the celebrated AI specialist, Professor Victor Stein. Ron Lord, that's really hard to say, just divorced and living with his mum again, is set to make his fortune with a new generation of sex dolls for lonely men. That combines AI, futuristic stuff, and love. I've read Jeanette Winterson before. I believe I read a book that my best friend gave me, but I can't remember what it's called. I'll put it here. That was fantastic. She writes in a very fluid, non-chronological, quite arty way. But this poetic style, I think it's going to translate really well into a more modern book like this. Plus, again, I quite like the cover. I like that there's 2 layers here, like it's quite a cool design. Yeah, apparently it's riotous and fizzing with ideas, which I relate to. Why have I got horns? I think Books and Quills, Senna, I'm sorry I butchered your name, but she recommended this book, and this is Scythe by Neal Shusterman. As far as I'm aware, it's about 2 youths who are tasked with killing people because no one can die anymore, so there has to be like a list of people that have to go, and then they have to go out and kill them. I really like stories about like the afterlife and death. If you can't tell, I like stories about a lot of things. Usually something is slightly dark, and this sounds quite dark, and apparently there's lots of twists in it, which I always love because I never see them coming. In a perfect world, the only way to die is to be gleaned, which means killed, by a professional scythe. When Citra and Rowan are chosen to be apprentice scythes, they know they have no option but to learn the art of killing. Last, but certainly not least, and a bit of a cheat because I have read a tiny bit of it, this is Perfume by Patrick Süskind. Everyone and their dog knows what this is about. Apparently there was a good movie about it. I am determined to read it because it's meant to be one of Kurt Cobain's favourite books, and there is a poster of him here, which you can't see. Not only that, but it's meant to be a classic. It's about a man who has a supersonic sense of smell and how he describes the world. No, it's not even that old, but it reminds me of Victorian novels. Like, the way it's written is quite flowery. I'm determined to finish it. It's my last fiction rec. If you're wondering what this is Astro Poet's book. They're on Twitter. I think my salt lamp leaks. I don't know if that's normal or not. I will link any booktubers I follow in the description. I don't follow that many. Not all of them are specifically just booktubers, but I get most of my recommendations from these people. Thanks for watching again, guys. I will link anything you need here. My channel, a video, some kind of playlist probably. Thank you for subscribing. I'm on 52 subscribers, one for every week of the year. Can't believe it. Thank you so much. Tell me what books you want to read. I'm all about the recs. Au revoir.